I'm gonna do something I've never done before. I'm gonna take my passion for the ocean and use it for inspiration for my next sculpture. Join me on a one-of-a-kind adventure where we catch some fish, cook the freshest seafood you can imagine, and see some amazing wildlife, even some with teeth. This entire ocean-themed sculpture started over 18 months ago when I found this piece of redwood burl laying on the beach after a winter storm.
Good find. We're gonna bring this home. He's carrying our log because I'm carrying you. Nice log.
I waited over a year and a half for this log to dry out so I could carve it, but just when I thought I had everything perfectly planned, I heard a very strange noise coming from this log. Turn the volume up and listen. What is this? Hey Jess, can you come here? You need to know that I'm not crazy. Come here. Okay, you hear that, right?
Yeah. Right there. It's coming up.
Oh, let's go!
That's
Oh my god, it's coming up!
it's a big old bee.
Big ass bee, get in! Hopefully it flew away.
That's the hole that is it.
After doing some research, we believe this is a carpenter bee that is burrowed in this log. I could have probably worked around this and got rid of it, but after what happened in last video, I'm not taking any chances. Apart from the bee, this log had a ton of sand, rocks, and shells buried in its grain and in all those little cavities that would make pouring epoxy on this an absolute nightmare. So it's better off just to start with a fresh, new piece of wood. And lucky for me, my friend Alex has been holding on to this walnut burl for over 3 years now and gave me the green light to go ahead and use it. Now, because all my recent bug problems, I'm taking no more chances on this. I'm going to deep freeze this burl for a week, which should eliminate any living organism that may be hiding inside this log. And while that's in the freezer, let's head out for our adventure.
You boys ready?
We're going to head out over 25 miles to the northern Channel Islands in pursuit of some delicious fish and some underwater wildlife to inspire this carving. Crossing the channel, we saw tons of these small dolphins playing and jumping around, and then we came across this cool rock arch at the south end of Anacapa, and then opened up full throttle until we reached our very first dive spot. One of the hardest things about underwater filming is actually knowing if your camera is on or not. Luckily, Ryan was there to help me out.
Filming.
It is filming?
Yeah, it's got a red dot.
The visibility was awesome. This place looked like a pool. We immediately started seeing an abundance of wildlife. I saw a bat ray within 5 minutes of diving in. Hey there, buddy. A school of barracuda, massive bait balls, some playful seals, and even double bat rays. This was cool and all, but we were specifically targeting one species, the white sea bass. About an hour into the dive, I came up from a breath hold to see Bobby and Ryan huddled together.
What are you guys doing? I got one. You got one?
He got one. Let's switch over to his camera and see what he saw.
I got him. Yeah, baby.
This is a beautiful white sea bass and Ryan's very first one.
Ryan's first white sea bass.
It's safe to say this trip started out with a bang. Now let's check in on this frozen burl. The first thing I have to do is clean up all this bark, and there is a lot of bark to clean up. I don't know if it's because this is frozen or if this is just normally like this, but all of this bark is actually coming off surprisingly easy. It's very nice for a change. Once all the bark is off, I use this little sanding wheel to smooth everything out, And basically the cleaner you get everything now just makes the epoxy pouring that much easier, because you never want to have any problems once the epoxy is poured, because there's no going back. The top of this burl is a little lopsided, so I flatten it out as best I can with a chainsaw and then cut off parts that won't be needed for the carving. I have to add a little section here, but first I need to flatten it out as best as I can so I have a really clean glue line. So I just grab my hand plane and sander and get it as flat as I can. Once both ends are flat, I use some Total Boat 4-minute epoxy and glue them on. To me it's pretty obvious what I'm going to be carving here, but I want to see if you guys can guess. Make sure and timestamp your comment so I know you're not cheating. Can't have any cheaters on this channel. The final step before the main epoxy pour is to use some Total Boat Performance epoxy to seal all the wood. This will basically help prevent bubbles from forming during the main pour. And if you guys are one of my channel regulars, you know how much I hate bubbles. Off camera I made this mold and I didn't realize it until afterwards, but this is way too big to actually fit in the freezer. So I'm going to have to go old school BM sculptures here and do this pour inside the house. Like always, I'm going to use some Total Boat Thickset Fathom. This is the best epoxy for deep pours, and they've been a supporter of this channel for quite some time now. So feel free to use my discount code in the description if you want to use any of Total Boat's products. I'm going to be doing this in 2 separate pours since it's not cooled down as much as I'd like. It's around 70 degrees in this house and I have the fan on up above, but it's still not as cool as I'd like. You'd think by now I'm an expert at epoxy pouring, but I still make all these stupid mistakes, like forgetting the wood will float in the epoxy. What an idiot. While this is curing, let's head back out to the islands where we're now in search of some scallops. I absolutely love diving for scallops. You can usually get them within the first 20 feet from the surface, and it's like a little Easter egg hunt. It's one of those things that if the spearfishing or fishing is bad, you can still pretty much guarantee you'll get a limit of scallops, at least in the spots we know. And if you're trying to figure out where our spots are, just know.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
We got some great looking scallops, and this is the perfect time to start our very first cookout. Nothing's better after a long day of diving than just sitting back, relaxing, and cooking scallops that you just pulled out of the water. It doesn't get any fresher than this. We present to you bacon-wrapped scallops. Ryan is deemed our honorary taste tester of the trip. What do you think, Ryan?
Got a nice little meal. Cook some more.
The day quickly turned to night, and looking back, we had one of the best first days ever. While we're sleeping, let's get a check-in on that epoxy pour. It turned out perfect. Normally you could see a seam line in between the 2 separate epoxy pours, but for some reason, you can't even really see a line on this pour. This is one of the best 2-part pours I've ever done. Now let's get straight to some carving. I like to sit back and just watch the carving take shape. At this stage, it's all about removing bulk material and refining the silhouette. Day 1 of this carving's complete. I'm wiped. Now let's go back to the trip and see what day 2 has in store.
Oatmeal breakfast here. Huh? How are we feeling?
We woke up to a perfect glassy morning, and we're going to get a jump start on the day and hit our dive spots early. We put in some serious dive time on this trip, and if you've ever free dove before, you know that hamstring and calf cramps are a very common occurrence after a long day. That's why I am pumped to team up with this video's sponsor, Element. Check out how far this flying fish goes. Element helps us stay hydrated without the sugar and other shady ingredients found in other sports drinks, and prevents us from not only cramping but fatigue during our long diving sessions. It is also perfect for trips like this when space is definitely a priority because these little packets can fit basically anywhere. Get a free Element sample pack today with any purchase if you use my link drinkelement.com/bmsculptures. The sample pack has one of every flavor so you can try them all out. If you give it a try and don't like it, it's risk-free. Give it away to a salty friend and Element will give you the money back. No questions asked. As soon as we hit the water, we were greeted by this shark, and none of us know what species this is, so if any of you know, please let us know down in the comments. I had more encounters with bat rays on this dive than all the other days combined. It's almost as if they were trying to tell me something.
Carve me, Blake.
Carve me, Blake. No, carve me, Blake. I'm more beautiful.
After about 3 hours in the water and not seeing anything besides bat rays, it was time to test our luck at some fishing. But before that, we ran into this guy. This is such a cool fish. Does anyone know the name of this thing? Soon after we dipped our poles into the water, we caught our first ocean whitefish. And to celebrate, we're going to make some nigiri and crack open some sparkling elements. And remember, use my code drinkelement.com/bmsculptures for a free sample pack with any purchase. Thanks, Element. Now let's feast on some nigiri. Here's our number 1 taste tester, Ryan. How is it, buddy?
Good.
I have an embarrassing story to tell you guys. Up until last year, when I ordered sushi with whitefish in it, I thought it was whatever generic white-meated fish they had extra of. I would never order it because I literally thought it was an undesirable white fish or something they just couldn't sell or had extra of at the restaurant. It wasn't until I caught a ocean whitefish that I put the pieces together and realized it is a very desirable fish. And just like we feasted here, it was delicious. Live and learn, right? Okay, back to the carving. It's all about taking off a little material at a time, just looking at your reference pictures, or for my case, reference videos of all these bat rays. And yes, by now, hopefully, you've realized that I'm carving a bat ray. I had just too many awesome experiences diving on this trip with bat rays. And not only did they tell me they wanted to be carved, but I just think their smooth fins and streamlined shape would look awesome in a wooden epoxy sculpture. What do you guys think? One question you might be asking right about now is the tail looks a little too small. And yes, it is. And this is a design choice. Not only would the long tail be extremely fragile and would probably break during carving, but I'm also thinking about how this piece is going to be displayed. And if it had a long tail, it would just get in the way. It would be hard to display. And again, it would probably break by someone walking by. Okay, that's enough of me talking for now. Let's sit back and watch this bat ray come to life. This is a seriously messy job, and a lot of people always ask about my respirator. This is a PAPR, or Powered Air Purifying Respirator. Mine is made by Miller Electric, but I know 3M also makes one. They're pretty pricey, but if you do anything like this, it is well worth it, and my lungs thank me. I'll put a link to this one as well as the 3M one in the description, but for now, let's get back to some fishing. We're switching gears from diving, and we're gonna fish for some halibut, and we have a couple of small keepers in the boat, but nothing to write home about. It's time we throw down a couple good luck beverages and try to summon the big one into our boat by using an alternative approach. In a matter of minutes, Bobby and Ryan's halibut jig thrust got a big boy all riled up on the seafloor, and we had one on the hook. This is a beautiful 35-inch halibut, and we are going to get some awesome fillets from this guy. It's time for our next feast, so while Ryan and Bobby are filleting the halibut, I'm going to go get some scallops for some fresh ceviche. I'm going to make scallop and whitefish ceviche, and after doing this, we all agreed that we're going to be continuing this tradition every single year. It's easy to make and a refreshing appetizer at the end of a long day.
Good ratio.
Yeah. That looks so good.
And it was. But let's hear from our official taste tester. With Ryan's of approval, we settle in for the night, and it's time to get back to the carving. It's time for the details, and I'm going to try and turn this lump of wooden epoxy into a defined and proportionate bat ray. Let's watch this thing come to life. Bat rays have this really weird cavity behind their eye, and I'm not sure exactly what it's for. At first I thought, obviously it's the gills, but if you actually look on the underside of a ray, the gills are located there, so I'm not really sure what to make of this. If anyone knows what this is for, let me know down in the comments. Name another animal that has a funnier face than rays. It's almost like a cartoon, a perfect smiley face on the underside. I almost laugh as I'm carving a literal smiley face in the bottom of this ray. Once all the sanding is complete, it's time to turn my attention to all the cracks in this wood. I'm going to tape up the underside of the ray and then use Total Boat High Performance Epoxy to fill up all the larger gaps and holes that I see. For all the smaller cracks, I'm going to use some CA glue, and hopefully fill as many as I possibly can. As I finish sanding, I can't help but smile as I think about our trip. This was our best trip yet, and as a fisherman, it's not only the experience of catching that is memorable, but every time you make a meal with what you caught, it just brings you right back to that place. So thank you, Bobby and Ryan, for keeping our yearly island trip going strong, and I already can't wait for next year. Now that the bat ray is pretty much carved, it's time to find a one-of-a-kind pedestal to display it on. This is the end cap of the old growth redwood burl back from when I carved the T-Rex skull. And I love the little cave it has, and then the swirling grain pattern that kind of reminds me of a piece of coral. I think this could be the perfect piece. Once I cleaned it up, I brought it to the shop, and I probably didn't invent this idea, but I've never seen anyone else try it. This pedestal needed to be flattened, and it was too large to fit on my joiner, and I really didn't want to waste any time making a custom router sled for it. So basically, I attached 2 boards to the underside and then slid it over my table saw to clear out all the low points. This worked surprisingly well. All I had to do was take my hand planer and really just clean up the bottom, and after that, it sat very flat. Now, did I invent this? I don't know. Have you guys seen anyone do that before? This old growth redwood has some history. Not only is it estimated to be over 1,000 years old, but it's been in fires, and probably multiple fires. There's a ton of soot underneath this little cave here, and to strengthen it I used some Total Boat penetrating epoxy, which did a phenomenal job. I wanted to make the really unique grain pattern stand out, so I lightly sanded the high spots, and then I thought to myself, this little cave needs something. A friendly little critter to call it a home of its own. This cave is getting a little crab buddy. I'm using another piece of this old growth redwood to carve a mini little crab that you would frequently see while diving inside these caves. These little crabs and little ocean critters love bunkering up in these little caves, so this is a perfect addition to this pedestal. This sculpture will be listed for sale over on my website. Check out the link in my description. The only thing left to do was apply finish, and we are done with this sculpture. All right, thanks for watching this video. This was hands down the most fun I've ever had on a video, so I hope you guys liked it. If you did or if you didn't, please let me know down in the comments, because I'm only gonna do more videos like this if you guys like it. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. All right, let's show you the finished sculpture.